You are listening to the Billy D's podcast.
We are waiting just a minute for everyone to engage the live stream. Remember, you can find the Billy D's podcast on your favorite platform.
All right. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to the live stream. My name is Billy D's. With me is Cynthia Elliott. How are you, Cynthia?
I'm doing great, Billy.
Awesome. Well, we always wait just a moment for everyone to come in and kind of get familiar with setting up their app or whatever it is that they're doing. Sometimes you have to refresh your browser to engage the live stream. So we give people about a minute and a half, and we're already minute 24 in. So I'm going to pause just a moment, and then we're going to go ahead and get the podcast started. Thank you so much for checking in with us tonight. All right. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to the program. I am absolutely thrilled that you are here. If you've never checked us out before, we are primarily an interview and a commentary-based podcast. Today, we are live, a special edition of the podcast live on Saturday night. With me is the wonderful, the intelligent, and the beautiful Cynthia Elliott. How are you doing?
Wow, Billy, can I pay you extra for that? Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome.
I'm doing great. Excited to see you. Excited to be doing a special episode.
Yes. What we're going to be talking about today is AI. And I got to say, this is kind of Cynthia's brainchild in terms of what we're doing tonight on the program. A lot of things that I've run across, a lot of podcasts and other things about AI have been very macro, talking about technology in general, whether or not it's going to become a situation where, a computer takes over the earth. And, those are interesting conversations for sure. But we're going to cover, actually more than a half a dozen things on today's program that we might be speculating a little bit about some of them, but for the most part, these are things that are very plausible and not in 2035.
Yeah, patents and all that have already been filed.
Yes, this is moving forward. Okay, these things are really happening. And there's a lot of layers to this. There's the technology side, which is somewhat interesting. But then there's other sides to them which are breaking new ground in terms of ethics, morality, how our society functions. We're kind of getting into a new thing here. I particularly am not alarmed by a lot of the stuff we're going to be talking about today. This isn't a program to scare people. This is just a program to let you know where things are going. And Cynthia, I have to say, first of all, you've been on top of this AI thing for a long time. It's been long before it was popular. And I followed it to a degree, but I think the one dimension that you bring to it is would it be correct to refer to you as a spiritualist? Would that be correct? Is that the proper term?
Yeah.
Okay. I think one of the things that you bring to it is you have a humanity, you have a humanistic feel about where things are going. And I appreciate that about you. So you kind of have the knowledge of where some of the technology is going, and you also have that other dimension, which I really appreciate. So we're going to talk about some of these technologies, and we're going to get right into it. So here we go. The first one is the Google Feeling System, and this is one I was not aware of. Briefly, this is an AI-trained technology to recognize and respond to human emotions that could improve therapy bots, healthcare support, and customer service. The risk is the risk of manipulation. Corporations could exploit emotional AI to push purchases or political opinions and some other things. Let's start with that first. Let's talk about a little bit more in your words. What is the Google Feeling System? Let's start there.
Yeah, it's basically giving artificial intelligence the ability to better understand the emotions and feelings of humans so that they can be more effective at everything from treatment to being, assistance, to advising them. And, I understand why they want to do it. My concern is that technology players, particularly the big boys, have consistently shown disregard for the unhealthy ways in which technology can be used. And it's difficult to imagine. I mean, when you look at someone like, so Google is doing this, but once somebody like a Google does this kind of technology, it ends up hitting, all the big players want to go after similar types of technologies. And we've seen with Meta in particular, a consistent saying one thing and then doing whatever the hell they want.
Yeah.
And that eroded our privacy over years. So for me, when I look at AI, I look at how does this benefit humanity? As a social theorist, I want to see how is this going to actually be helpful? And I can absolutely see how if it understands thoughts and feelings, then it can become a much better, say, therapist and a person who can help identify, medical issues, things like that. I get it. But how do they not misuse that to take the information that they have, which is very intimate information? I mean, if you're able to understand all of that, then you're able to measure it within, say I have an AI robot friend. What's to prevent the information that he has on me from being used by these big tech companies to market to me? And we know from the last 25 years, they consistently do the very thing that they say, oh, we won't do that.
Yeah, sure.
And so that's the danger here. The beauty of it is it can be a really great tool for health and wellness and diagnosis, but it's also got the potential to allow too much information to be in the hands of big tech.
One of the things that you mentioned in your notes is authenticity. And I'm not necessarily meaning authenticity in terms of lying versus not lying, but the confusion that could arise over real human empathy. Is the user going to equate this technology with real human empathy?
Yeah, and we're already seeing that as a problem with AI as it already is, which is why when people say, "Oh, that's not going to happen," it's like people like me who are futurists don't base these things off of just picking the ideas out of the air. It's usually off of pattern recognition and understanding history. And just recently, we've had a slew of people get spiritual psychosis or a form of psychosis. And getting crushes on AI. Some guy even, asked AI to marry them. I mean, we're already confusing what is real with what is not real.
Yeah, I think one of the things I mentioned in one of my programs is I don't necessarily have a fear of AI becoming, this giant master computer that takes over everything. Although that's not, I guess, impossible in the grandest sense, but what I am concerned about is so many people ask Chat GPT and these other things about their everyday problems to the point where are we really being guided by a technology? Like there's a problem in your marriage, what do I do about it? You ask Chat GPT, is that really the source that you should be turning to for these kinds of support? So, and that is going to creep in. It's not going to be like this one big day where the computer just takes over, like in a science fiction movie. But over time, and especially when younger generations who are already way more dependent on this type of thing than what they should be, is this an artificial evolution? That would be one of my concerns. And the other thing we have about this one we have noted, which we kind of tapped into, is when people, I shouldn't say people, but a technology that's being used on behalf of people that are hopefully good people using it for the proper intent, but they could not be, and is lending them your emotional well-being, your status. Is that a good thing to do? So that's one of the. Did you want to expand on that?
No. If they weren't for-profit companies who are going to go through, they're already going through an adjustment right now because, like, everybody and their brother ran to do a generative AI app or something like that, and a lot of them aren't working out. But that's kind of part of the process, sort of a normal evolution for technology. But they are for-profit companies.
Yeah.
And for-profit companies, inevitably, I've seen this time and time again, for-profit companies may start out with good intentions, but I have inevitably seen almost all of them become greedy And how do you? We've already sold. If you look at the what you sign when you're like signing up for these apps or these chatbots, you're signing your life away. You're giving them full access to all the information that they're harvesting, and unless you can come up with a way not to.
Yeah.
And you're not going to be able to prevent them from say some future venture capitalist whatever invests in the company and starts pushing for them to make use of the information they have. Look at as a good example of this and why we should be concerned. Look at the 23 and Me.
Mm-hmm.
Look what's happened with them.
Yes.
They sought to monetize all of that data that they told everyone would never be used that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's a real fear.
It would never be used that way, of course. Here's another one, kind of similar. This one isn't particularly alarming. We have one coming up down the pike that a lot of people are going to freak out about. Google Smart Skin. The good part of this is that electronic skin that senses touch could revolutionize prosthetics, telemedicine, and VR immersion, not virtual reality. Now, the idea of touch in particular in prosthetics is very important because someone who lost a limb, for example, you can have the manipulation of the mechanics has gotten to the point where you can say, let's pick up a pen. But that person cannot feel the weight, the texture, whether it's plastic or metal. They cannot feel that pen the way a human hand can. And this now is kind of changing that. Before we get into some of the cons on this, I like it in general. I liked plastic surgery at one time when it was designed to be used for people who were in a bad accident or had a disfiguring disease or something like that. But it turned out to be something where people used it to enhance themselves to a beauty ideal that really is unrealistic. What say you about this? Let's start with the data. Let's start with some of that. What's your view on this? And should I have explained it any better?
I kind of no. I actually like the skin. I mean, whether they're putting it on a robot to give it more of a human appearance, which could be really great or really bad, depending on which end of the, what are they serving cleaning your household and you want them to look more human, or are they pointing a weapon at you because we're in battle? It gives a new perspective on that. And whether, and then in regards to this skin being used on humans, it has wonderful potential in terms of what we were just talking about, prosthetics and things like that, giving people feeling back. There's always a flip side to these things because the research and development, they're usually looking at the most beautiful outcome possible, but inevitably, because we live in a capitalistic society, somebody monetizes the other end of it. And the other end of this, which could be really cool, is the intimacy end of it. It could be really amazing. I mean, with a false skin, you could feel somebody who's 1,000 miles away, which is really interesting for families who want to hug.
Sure.
But in terms of what people will do with that, and create more and more reasons to isolate, I think there's something to be concerned there. I mean, we're not going to stop that train, but I think it does bear. One of my big, you hear me say this over and over, and write it in my posts, is that we're not talking about these things on a public forum. The only people that seem to ever get listened to are a handful of the same executives from the same companies who all benefit financially from how this conversation goes. We're not hearing on a real global stage open conversation about should these things be done or not. And I think this is a good one, but we should be having these conversations saying these are all the wonderful things. Here's what could be done or go wrong. And we should talk about it now before it becomes inevitable. And we're now trying to fix the problem after the cows left the barn.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what, there's going to be an element of that. It's very hard to stop a bad player once the genie is out of the bottle. That was the way with nuclear weapons and so many other things. It's so easy to be an optimist and say we should just ban nuclear weapons and we can't use them. Well, why don't we just ban war while we're at it? Okay, it just doesn't work that way. Sooner or later, some wallpaper hanger starts making his way across the world, conquering countries, and this technology anymore is not something that can be confined. This isn't 1945 anymore. You can't keep this stuff in a lockbox, and it doesn't stay there anymore. Before we go on to the one, this is the one that's really going to spin a lot of heads. But before I mention it, I do want to talk about the soultechfoundation.org. Here again, there's an excellent dichotomy to Cynthia, because she's aware and concerned about a lot of the potential for things to go wrong with AI. But she's also aware that underserved communities and other things can benefit so much by learning this technology. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I'm really excited. So the Soul Tech Foundation is the foundation I started to teach life practices that allow people to thrive in underserved communities. And that includes well-being, emotional and mental health, but it also includes AI literacy skills. So I'm extremely excited that the Soul Tech Foundation's partnered with Otterman's Institute, which are global education leaders, to bring 10,000 free courses to Americans. So we're going to be upskilling 10,000 Americans across the country with their incredible course, which is UNESCO based. And helping them thrive in this current age. You know, as much as I can talk about the potential negatives, I'm a big believer in giving people the skills they need to succeed. And we all need to know what's going on with AI. So they learn ethics and, what it can do and all of that good stuff. So I'm excited.
That is absolutely fantastic. And once again, that is the, let me give you the web address one more time. That is soultechfoundation.org. specifically /AI-literacy-training. So yes, please do check that out. Here's the one that's going to, you had it was an article. There was an article posted, and you had talked about it on LinkedIn. And one of the images was a female form robotic, and in the belly was a human fetus. And that was a shocking image for a lot of people. But here again, this isn't something out of, some futuristic movie. This is actually something that's happening in China right now. And they've been talking about artificial amniotic fluid, I believe it's called, for a long time. But what I guess you could say is good about this, its intent would be to help students and doctors train for pregnancy, birth, and neonatal care. I have a feeling that's going to go somewhere else pretty quick.
Yeah, this is about breeding. Let's be honest. And I've had this. So I posted this on LinkedIn, and I was really stunned at how many people. Like, it got reshared a ton of times. Tons of comments from people. Yeah. A lot of people really concerned, going from the really religious people who are like, this is against the laws of nature and God, to people who are saying, look, it's the natural part of us tearing things up and playing with the universe to see what we can actually create. That's part of our job here on this planet. And I could see a little bit of everyone's points, but for me, again, I always go back to what is the worst case scenario here. So I love the idea. I mean, I grew up in an orphanage. I grew up around babies who were in the adoption process, and with women. I met a lot of women who couldn't have children. So I'm the first to empathize with that situation. And this humanoid robot that can carry babies is actually really good for people who are struggling to have children, particularly women who have physical issues. But what's the bad scenario? And that is that when you look at the film The Matrix, and there's the scene where Neo wakes up and he's got the plug in his back and he's basically being breeded. It is not crazy. A lot of people say, oh, that's crazy to say that. No, it is not actually crazy to say that that AI will be breeding humans. That actually is a potential situation that I believe will probably happen in the near future. We're talking 10 to 20 years from now, where we discover that, a lot of these experiments and research and development that you and I are talking about have gone awry in some way. It is not hard to imagine if AI is already rewriting its code to do whatever it wants now. What's it going to do in 10 years when it knows how to actually make humans?
The idea that, one of the things that you have here is that it could reduce the human experience of pregnancy to just mechanics. And I'm going to make an argument here that that's already happened. Female human beings are already referred to as baby makers often enough. Okay.
True. Yeah.
So it's not that much of a step to, there's this big push, there's this big concern. Oh, population is declining. People aren't, having sex anymore, and all this, they're choosing not to have kids. And there's all this fear mongering about this. And maybe some of it's legitimate. I don't know. But the idea that, boy, okay, well, we have a solution here. And I here again, the recreating what happens in the womb in a laboratory with or without AI biologically is already possible. Mm-hmm. All right. And the other thing is that, we hear so much about abortion. I was gonna make a little joke. Does one of these robots, do they have abortion rights?
Probably more than a woman.
Yes, exactly. But what I was getting at is these robots that are having these children. There's going to come a point where biologically, forget the technology of AI aside, we already have the biological knowledge to create a human life without intercourse, without sex.
Yeah. Yeah.
We already have
the AI being able to do it.
Yes, we already have that capability. So, as a matter of fact, they've done it with goats and other things. And, in terms of DNA and the complications thereof, the DNA of a goat or a very large animal of that type is not, we're not talking about an amoeba here, is not that much more complicated than a human being. So I'm kind of wondering if they've already done it somewhere. That
wouldn't surprise me.
So you could, with the technology that we have already, design a human being.
Oh, I'm sure that's already happening. Yeah, I know they can edit the genetics. So.
Yes, you can edit the genetics. So you could take the cell of any given person and just modify it a little bit. I wish I was a little taller. Well, they're gonna create another me that's a little taller. And the potential for this is, of course, either by human intervention or by AI, is sooner or later, are we going to create something that is very hard to define as a human being or an animal or something else?
Oh, that kind of research is actually kind of already happening, where they're taking human tissue and doing things with it. It's actually, I actually find that research to be the most, the bio research to be terrifying in many ways. I do have to mention in regards to this, one of my big concerns, like I get it, being able to use, we already have it. We're so close to it. I think this is really just about the fact that they really came in your face, the company that talked about this week with that image of the baby inside the robot. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what really startled people, because it really drove home. And I think it was actually not in their favor. I mean, got a lot of people talking, but it also really brought to surface one of the major concerns, which is the fact that when you cut women out of the process of having children, I believe there's something divine there that we're absolutely assuming, like we're just cutting it out without that's the thing that always bothers me about tech and AI, is it's so arrogant, and researchers and scientists can sometimes be so incredibly arrogant that they're so busy looking at the mechanics of a situation and how they can actually make it happen, that they're not looking at the spiritual side of it. But, a mother and her child, and the child growing, and that's not everybody's ability, but for the vast majority of children, that is the process that happens. And it's like we're just bypassing the gift of the mother, that the mother does give to the child. And when a woman has had a man's children, his DNA stays in her body. And it's like we're messing with that whole process without having any conversation about it.
Yeah.
Because what's going to happen. There will be women who are like, we're going to have kids now, and it's off to the robot to have the robot do it, because, younger generations are going to feel less disturbed by technology being used in that way. But it's like we're not talking about, like, what are the real issues around here. We're not talking about my concern isn't about the people who are really struggling to have children. It's about the fact that people will feel the need. There are countries where people don't even have rights. And what's to stop them from generating a whole new generation of people to basically turn into slaves for the system? It's that kind of thing that we're talking about.
Yeah. Interesting stuff. And I know some of this seems far out, but this is here again. I want to stress we're speculating just a little bit, but the technologies that we're discussing are actively being implemented. There's patents being filed. There's stuff happening. 2026 is when this. I hope I'm saying this correctly. The Kaiwa pregnancy robot could be activated next year. So next up on our list of things to talk about are AR glasses with memory playback. Now, this is kind of like artificial reality, enhanced reality.
Mm-hmm.
And
augmented reality.
Augmented reality. That's the word I was looking for. Excuse me. And with memory playback.
Just what every couple needs.
Oh, yeah. Well, if you think women never...
What did you just say? Oh, wait, let me just play this back.
Yes.
Because yesterday you said something completely different.
Yes, I was going to say, if you think women never forget now, well, just you wait, right? Now, this is, I guess, the idea behind this is to recall experiences with perfect accuracy, like living a memory journal. You can have a memory journal. So the day of your wedding, you could relive that. And it could help with Alzheimer's and education, because a lot of times people just don't retain information. And one of the criticisms I have of the educational system that we have now is it's very reliant on memorization, not learning.
Which is basically, garbage in, garbage out.
Yeah. So, I mean, your doctor are they really a skilled doctor? They just got a really good memory and they knew what all the answers were. How well do they apply that? How well do they consider you as a human being? All this other stuff. That's a whole other thing. Okay. So anyway, what are some of the drawbacks to that, in your opinion? What do you
How are they not going to use? Come on, like Mark Zuckerberg, who I'm sorry to pick on, but he really has got, of all of the big tech companies, he's probably got the crappiest track record.
Yes.
Of doing. He's done some stuff that they lied about. It's not just that they used it in the way they put in the legal legalese. It's some things that we found out since. But how are they not going to? And I believe this is Meta's invention, if I recall. How are they not going to use all those memories to market to you?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, as it is, I have to bury my phone if I want to talk about anything that I don't want to be served an ad up in 5 minutes. And I know some of them are recording all the time. I don't know where they store all this data, but how are they not going to use that to market to us? And then, at one point it's like you and I've talked a lot about social media and how you get, because the algorithms, the way that they read things, you'll end up getting an echo back of your own opinion versus somebody else's opinion to consider. Mm-hmm. How is this kind of situation, where everything is recorded? How does that not create issues like that? I mean, it's just where everything you're being served up is just emphasizing or something that you've just experienced. Like to me, it's the listening, the surveillance aspect of it, because that is what that will be. Yeah. It will allow anybody who can tap into whatever AR glasses you're using to actually watch you all the time. Yeah. People can play back everything, so you can't make any mistakes or do anything naughty, because goodness knows they can play it back. And then on top of that, you can be served up ads based on your private experience. I have
no evidence of this. This is strictly speculation on my part. Not the first part of what I'm going to say. It's pretty well known that the cellular network, the way the smartphones work, your proximity to somebody, let's say, that's maybe shopping for a new car, will put new car ads on some of the stuff you're doing, because the technology presumes that if you are in close proximity to somebody who's been shopping for a car, that you might have had a discussion about buying a new car, and that could have planted the desire in you to check out what's available. Mm-hmm. Okay. I have said for a long time, and I've heard many of the people who have left technology services, spying networks, things like that. A lot of the whistleblowers from some of these agencies have flat out said that your phone, even if you turn it off, can still do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it can.
As a matter of fact, if you take the battery out of it, If you crack open an iPhone or any smartphone and take the battery out of it, it still has enough in it to surveil you for a brief moment of time.
Mm-hmm.
This is the part that's speculation. I had somebody suggest this to me, and I don't think it's far-fetched because I'm going to swear that it happened. There's been a few times when I have considered something to purchase, but I've not told anybody. And those things still show up on my timeline.
Oh yeah, that's not your imagination. That is the algorithm doing its job. It's not just studying you, it's studying other people. And based on what generally occurs in what order, based on all the mass amount of data they have, yeah, they know you're about to think of something. It's telepathic in many ways.
Yes, and I firmly believe that because I've had it happen.
Oh yeah,
I've had things enter my mind on a whim that I may have dismissed. Now I really don't want that. And sometime later in the day, that thing shows up, and if you think this is something that's going to happen in some weird part of the future, it's happening right now.
Oh yeah,
I'm telling you, there's some weird stuff going on. So anyway, this one here is interesting. Samsung dream monitoring.
that's not terrifying.
The pretend goodness of this is that it could diagnose PTSD, trauma, or neurological issues by analyzing dream data. Yeah, that sounds like some real bullshit.
Yeah, yeah. So here's my main issues with this. So a couple things they've recently shown. Not only can they transfer a dream from one person to another, but they can actually because AI has gotten so good, it can be telepathic. And that you can think something and the AI will actually visualize what you have in your mind. So this dream product from Samsung is basically capitalizing on that kind of technology. And while I like the idea for people who have serious sleep issues, and I don't think it's a great idea for any tech company to be scanning your brain and gathering all of that data all night when you sleep, because not only are you're not in control of your subconscious when you're sure. Can you do some things to get some command of what you're dreaming or visioning when you're sleeping? Absolutely. But the vast majority of people, I don't have time for that. They just don't have the patience. But that means that everything that you have going on in your mind when you're not necessarily controlling it is going to get measured by some tech company. Then not only can they serve you up some ads, but that is very intimate detail about you that you don't even know because you were asleep when it was happening. And sure, if you can watch and have things play back, but are the tech companies going to be that transparent?
Yeah.
I mean, I think this is actually quite terrifying because this kind of technology has the ability for you walk into a store to go shopping and you were thinking something, maybe you did something at home. You said, hey, honey, I'm interested in one of these, whatever it is. You walk into a store, we're getting to the place where they can plant thoughts in your head, which sounds crazy, but they are already able to do that.
Yeah.
If they can transfer a dream from one person to another, if they are now proving that telepathy is actually real, which psychics have been talking about forever, that our thoughts can actually be interpreted by a machine we created without us saying a word. This is the kind of technology that we should be talking about out loud. And my biggest concern with tech companies, this happened 20 years ago, and I wrote about this and sorry if I'm going on here, but
no, this is good.
In A New American Dream, I wrote about this. The tech companies, they really took advantage of situations, and they consistently take for granted that they can PR spin all the positive aspects on everything and have us all so hyped up and excited and drown out any voices that are bringing up concerns. What kept happening, and I kept watching this happen, was that these rights were being railroaded and things were being done, and no one even believed me when I was telling them that the tech companies were spying on us. They're like, that's not true, and I'm like, yes, they are. It's by the time the truth does come out, they've already made their money. And they've gotten away with bloody murder. And my concern with this again is that these things are coming out. Their announcements are being made, but on a very large public platform. The people are not debating this. We just keep hearing these famous tech guys say, oh, we're a little concerned about this, but look at all this great stuff over here.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think Dream being able to do this is a great idea?
Yeah, I probably am going to say no. And it's going to dovetail into the next one, which is Meta's mind reading interface. This is similar to Elon Musk's deal, but it could allow paralyzed people to type or communicate by thought. And, obviously, the question becomes, when do you lose what's happening in between your ears? When does it go somewhere else? Before I hand this one over to you, I understand the very Neuralink is the company I alluded to of Elon Musk. There's been already benefits for people who have been paralyzed. And one of the things I really like about Neuralink is the transmission of impulses through the nervous system. In the past, the problem with, let's say, a severed spine has always been, once it's severed, it can't be reconnected. Those cells will not regrow themselves. It's not like breaking your arm and you can set it and the bone will regrow. It doesn't work that way. And the technology up till now has always been trying to find a way to refuse those nerve endings, and it hasn't been working out that well. Well, with Neuralink and similar technologies, you could take a Neuralink connector and have the impulses that are coming along the live section of the nerve go into the Neuralink device, go across the part that's been severed, and go into the part that needs to get the signal. So conceivably, you could create a situation where those nerves now have full communication again, and it wouldn't be that the severed part was fixed. It was bridged. Mm-hmm. And I find that to be fascinating stuff, and I want that to happen. I really do, because just think of the amount of people that could be helped by this. I mean, it's endless. And I presume the Neuralink monkey, for those that may not know, very briefly, they trained a monkey to play a game, with controllers, just like you do on your Xbox or whatever. And then they put this implant in, and the monkey is sitting there in front of the TV screen, not moving, just thinking and playing the game. Okay. Now, here again, fascinating stuff for sure. Mm-hmm. Where are your concerns on this one?
So we're already seeing a kind of a level of this, like, let's just call it like an experiment. When you look at what's going on with social media and, like, for example, just ChatGPT,
easy for you to say.
Things, I know, say that 3 times. Yeah. We're already seeing people have mental health issues. And this is, for me, my greatest concern about all of this is the mental, emotional, and spiritual health of humanity in the face of all of these incredible developments. Mark Zuckerberg has proven time and time again, this is not something that has happened once with him. He has repeatedly proven that he will not only test, do research that he does not tell people about, and some scandalous stuff. He's used people's data, sold it to other countries, even though it claimed they weren't. Like, the list is pretty endless. And I don't hate anybody, but he really does have the worst of all of them reputation for doing this. And so now he's coming out with basically mind reading stuff. Like, awesome, because you're not already doing that to some degree. I mean, let's look at what's already happening within social media because of the mind reading, basically the data harvesting. We're just taking data harvesting to an incredibly intimate level that includes not only people's conscious thoughts, but their subconscious. And how can that go wrong? Because the vast majority of us, the issues that we deal with in life tend to be driven by our subconscious. That's a cluster waiting to happen. Yeah. It really is.
We hear a lot about the politics of medicine, especially in regard to a woman's body. When you come to, let's say, the abortion issue, I'm not going to get into a discussion about that. But what I do want to point out is morality, ethics, medicine, all those principles are debated based upon what happens within the domain of a female human body. And there's some people that make the same comments about men as well. There's been some people that, male enhancement, all these other things that you can do to your body now. Should there be regulations on some of this? All right, that's fine. We can have that debate. But what everybody agrees on, for the most part, is what happens in your own mind is your deal. Okay, right now that has never been challenged before. You can have free will. You can debate murdering somebody. You can do all these things. Hopefully you make the right decision. But what happens in your own mind, that's the one part of the universe, not only your body, but it is the one part of the 13, 14 billion year old universe that is entirely yours as of now. Okay. Let's suppose you're the Wright brothers and you have a design for an airplane. All right. Somebody else gets it first.
Like Mark Zuckerberg.
Yes. It's that is technically, as far as I'm concerned, possible now to some degree.
Oh, yeah.
And how much better it's going to get is the other thing. So when do we not own our own thoughts anymore? It's one thing to not have dominion over your own body, for better or for worse. But imagine not having dominion over your own mind, your own consciousness.
Yeah. And Billy, this whole thing is not far from Minority Report. What's going to stop? Because let's be honest. We had a little history here with our like during the closures, social media, people were being banned for their thoughts and blocked for their thoughts. And so that's just recently happened a few years ago. We are very close. So say they can't read your thoughts and you have fantasies about killing someone who's done you wrong. I mean, we're not far from people saying, oh, you've got the potential to commit a crime. We need to send you away somewhere. Like that sounds crazy, but that's the kind of stuff that happens in these unprecedented situations.
I don't care how much of a moral high horse you are on. We all have a dark side. We all have it. And if this technology that can tap into it, you could be accused of anything. One of my favorite quotes, I believe it's just absolutely fantastic. I don't care how wonderful you think you are, how much you believe in God or the universe or your spirit. I don't care how confident you are that you are a good person. This quote says it all. We're all just one bad day from finding out who we really are. Okay. And if somebody can figure that out and accuse you of something you haven't done yet, where are we?
Yeah,
Where are we?
You think about it with spouses, like it just opens up a can of worms. I mean, what's going to stop some controlling person from reviewing what you thought today or seeing the fact that you thought somebody had a nice ass as a huge red flag? I mean, it just, we're slightly exaggerating, but this technology exists. AI is now telepathic with human beings. That is a real thing. And these are where these things will head inevitably, because if money can be made, and we know from the tech world that they've made their money not off of their platforms and their social media, they've made it off of our data and all of this, particularly mind reading glasses and mind reading programs. That is a data harvesting to the 10th degree.
Yeah. And you got to keep in mind that it's a two-way thing. Like you were talking about, this data that comes out of your mind can just as easily go in. And what determines reality in your own brain, the same neurons are firing. The same neurons are firing either way. I've used this example before. If you're walking out on your way to work and you see a blue table in your kitchen, those neurons are telling you there's a blue table in that kitchen. The same neurons are firing when they have been artificially told to do so.
Oh, I'm going to make a prediction right now. We are definitely going to have a situation in the future, definitely in my lifetime for sure, where someone has been programmed to do something really awful.
Oh, yeah.
Using their dream state. It's like the Manchurian Candidate.
Yes. There's been a number of fictional stories in the past that went down this. Telephone was another one where people were programmed by hearing a certain poem to commit an assassination, and they were just everyday people that were planted in society, and all it took was a phone call and for them to hear this poem, and they would go out and kill whoever they were supposed to kill. And it is not as far out now. It was science fiction when that movie came out 50 years ago. It is not now. So this is a one that I'm going to just lightly touch on. I'm not too concerned about this one. And I'll tell you why, because presumably if you're using this, you are aware you're using it. I'm more concerned about the stuff that's going to creep in on you. But Microsoft teleportation system, and it's, I hope I'm saying this right, holoportation via mixed reality lets people appear as 3D holograms anywhere. And this could change remote work, medicine, and education. Of course, the fraud, the idea of a deep fake is the most obvious one. It is. Do you have a concern about this one?
No, actually, I kind of like this one because it reminds me of Princess Leia from the Star Wars movies. Obi-Wan Kenobi, I need your help. But I'm not that concerned about this one because I think to some degree this is already happening. Like the number of famous men who follow me on social media and then send me a message, "Hey, babe."
Yeah,
it's like they've got the pictures of the person, video. They make it look really real. But that's just going to be the next level of that. This one doesn't really bother me that much.
Yeah, I'm not too. And you and I did a whole conversation about this on a podcast not too long ago, but it's worth talking about. These sexy, over-sexualized robots and what can be done with AI now. I guess you could say there's a good part of this where it provides companionship, sexual healing therapy, artistic exploration, and you could be doing this without STIs.
Right. Yeah. We're going to have sexy robots. Like that's not so much an issue for me. My concern with this, which is one of the reasons I put it on the list. So like I was working on a film this week and I was generating AI through various platforms, Runway, Midjourney, Grok, which by the way, the Imagine Grok is really, really great, especially if you want to bring to life some old photos of your family. But I was using all of them to generate images, and I got disturbed, re-disturbed, because I've been using AI for years now, at the statistical number of imagery within those platforms and the imagery generation that sexualizes women. And not only did I notice as I was going through all the examples, like I was scrolling through all the examples, where there was not one image that I even saw once where there was like a half naked man looking like He-Man. I saw some, anime characters that had that sort of Asian wild-haired thing going on, but there was not one image in all of the scrolling and all of the generating of all of the bouncing from platform to platform where there was a man who was unrealistically, ridiculously good-looking with an unrealistically absurd body, yet time and time and time again on all of those platforms. Not only are the women being generated unnaturally stunning, unnaturally featured, unnatural bodies, like these ridiculous, like 18-inch, 14-inch waists with a huge, and it was just over and over and over and over. And I was asking AI to generate a picture of a young girl skipping rope. And I couldn't actually generate one where she wasn't wearing what looked like a hooker outfit from the 1970s. And this was over, and the wording I used was young girl. A young girl with D-sized cups and shorts that are 2 inches long. Like it was just really, and so it just brought me back to that place where the problem is, and I really think that the guys who were deeply involved in creating the original large language models that do the generative AI, I think a lot of them were fans of that kind of extreme. I forget those fairs that happen all over the country where people show up dressed up.
Oh, yeah, those Comic-Con things.
Yeah, those Comic-Con type things where people come dressed up and the women are always these extremely ridiculous, huge boobs and hair that's, wigs, whatever. I'm really convinced that they founded the original imagery using anime from Asia and
Yeah.
and graphic novels and stuff like that, because if you look at the imagery that's generated, it has that essence. But and I'm going on about this because I don't think there's enough conversation about it. It's deeply concerning when you struggle to generate a picture of a person that looks normal.
Yes.
And that is a problem that you have with all of the platforms. Their go-to is ridiculously attractive people that I've met some of the most famous models in the world, and they don't look like this in person.
Yeah.
And that is actually deeply concerning because there's so much pressure already on women, and now it's become something that happening with young men to look this ridiculous level of. I mean, these 30-year-old actresses now are getting facelifts.
Yes.
It's insane. That's been a big story this year with a bunch of the really famous young 30 to 40-year-old actresses getting facelifts. There's already so much pressure. How is this not going to lead to more harm to themselves and their mental health? Anyway, I think it bears repeating. And the sexualization of robots. I mean, we already have a problem with men and women not communicating anymore, and there being a drop in the birth rate. I'm not sure if sexy robots is going to help.
Well, you could make the argument that sometime in the future, the responsibility of a procreation is going to go to the machines. So the only need for sex will be pleasure. And why not have it with a robot? Why not have it with the woman of your dreams? She never has a headache. She'll do anything you want on command. And here again, regardless of your sexual preference, you can have that anytime you want with the, type of relationship that you want. Men will always get hard, stay hard for as long as they need to stay hard. I could go on and on with this. And at what point does the human biological need to mate become no longer necessary? These are all questions that are coming up very fast. This is not something that's, in the 1960s and 1970s, we talked about the year 2000 like it was science fiction. Okay, well, that's 25 years past us now, and it's not 50 years away. It's years away. It's months away.
Months and years away.
It's coming like this giant steam engine is coming down the road, and we're on the tracks, and the steam engine's getting bigger and bigger, and it's coming. So these are all questions that we're going to have to wrestle with. It's our definition of morality, our definition of legal ease and legal norms are going to have to rapidly adapt.
Yeah.
So it's, Shaman, I got to tell you, Cynthia, fascinating conversation today. I want to thank you so much for suggesting this topic and these talking points. You and I have had these conversations before, so we obviously have a good rapport. So it's going to be an interesting time, and I hope you know that anytime you want to revisit these things, we can talk about them because this is something that's going to be actively progressing. I have a feeling the next year in particular is going to be very telling. Very telling indeed. All right. Cynthia, we talked about, if you want to reiterate, sure, the Soul Tech Foundation, please do so, but also tell people where else they can find you.
You guys can find me on X at Shaman Isis is my moniker. I'm basically at Shaman Isis or at Shaman Isis Official everywhere. And you can also, of course, visit my website to check out my books and courses and all that jazz. I'm super excited. Thank you, Bailey, for letting me highlight this again. The Soul Tech Foundation, which is my foundation to bring AI literacy and well-being education to underserved communities, has partnered with Otterman's Institute to upskill 10,000 Americans in AI literacy. And so if you are an NGO or an organization, we are partnering with them to help bring these wonderful classes, which are AI taught, to people all over the country. Just go to soultechfoundation.org. At the top, you'll see AI literacy, and you can reach out to us there to partner with us and help bring these courses to people all over the country.
Absolutely. You can find me at Billy D's on X, formerly known as Twitter, but it's X now, at Billy D's. That's kind of like my social media home. There's links in my bio there. The Billy D's podcast in its current form is now 10 years old, and we have been very strong on all the major podcast platforms. So, I really would encourage you to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. There's no paywalls for listeners. Okay. So, we appreciate each and every one of our listeners, and we do not tap into them for anything other than just being an audience and listening to the program and giving us feedback on social media or whatever you would like to do. By all means, listen and enjoy. And we really appreciate each and every listen we get. Cynthia, fascinating conversation. We're going to have to talk about this again real soon.
Absolutely. Thanks, Billy.
Absolutely. And thank you for listening. It is so appreciated. And we will talk to you again very, very soon.
Thank you for listening to the Billy D's podcast. Follow Billy D's on X @BillyD's for updates about the program.
Do you listen to music or audiobooks on streaming devices such as Sonos or Amazon speakers? How about on your car sound system? If you use Spotify, Audible, or Amazon Music on any of these systems, you can also listen to the Billy D's podcast the same way. Billy and his team go the extra mile to make sure our podcasts sound as good or better than anything on the radio. Listening to the Billy D's podcast has never been easier. You literally just have to ask.